Lovelace, and actually, I thought this was an okay match. I feel like I've given Veda Scott kind of a hard time lately. I just haven't found her matches that interesting. She certainly has, a few moves here and there, but the pace was much slower this time. Now, of course, with the tournament style, it's like they're saving their energy for later on, but yeah, it just was a little bit slower. There was more action outside the ring. There was one quite a startling moment. They did this spot where Veda did the old school. Of course, people remember, the Undertaker, climbs to the top of the ropes and holding the arm of the other person and kind of balancing, doing a balancing act, and then coming down and punching. Well, Veda was doing this on the barricade, but then Heidi kicked her as she pulled her down. She pulled her down from the barricade and kicked her right in the face. It was quite a moment. People were kind of shocked. So there was a few good moves by Veda Scott here and there, and at the end, she lost, but she said, "I still hate you," to the fans, even though they were cheering her. The fans were very, polite most of the time, kind of cheering for everyone. Kind of reminds me of my first Shimmer show. It was very difficult to, boo the heels because I was just so starstruck by so many of these wrestlers that I liked, and I wanted to cheer them anyway. It's like I don't care. I just can't hate them. I can't bring myself to hate them. So moving on. Next we have, Nicole Matthews, the champion, against Crazy Mary Dobson. And what you had was a new look for Crazy Mary. She was, I would call her a zombie or a ghoul, kind of a, kind of marked up face and kind of a reddish, kind of torn outfit. She looked very good. You might compare her maybe to Kano from Mortal Kombat. But in any case, I thought she had a very good look. She came out with a hockey mask, very trademark look for her, but less of the kind of the cutesy girl and more the dangerous, ghoulish character. It was at this point, I believe, Dave Prazak, in commentary, did a Joey Lawrence joke. I hadn't thought about Mr. Lawrence in years. His tree of woe. Anyway, quite annoying but funny. So Dave, he does what he does. And at this point, Dave Prazak started to talk about the new championship. And it made it sound very open-ended, like, well, it can be whatever the champion wants it to be. Which makes me think that they don't really have a plan for the championship. So, kind of didn't do a great job of selling it, to be honest. They made a cool new belt. I guess that's fun. But, what difference is it going to make? Certainly the Shimmer roster is big enough that they can have this title belt and then these tag team titles. But whatever, we'll see what they do. They've only had one show with this belt and one champion. So do they have a plan? I guess we'll see. I'm pretty sure a lot of wrestling, they do have plans, but things change so rapidly. Certainly, people get injured, they get out. And with an independent promotion like this, from show to show, you may not have the same wrestlers guaranteed to show up. So they can't make a lot of big plans, except within that weekend period. But if they're going to have these once-a-year pay-per-views, iPPVs, and just have, them compete for that belt there, that's fine. But I wonder on the regular Shimmer episodes what that's going to be like. So, anyway, moving on. I would say that this match overall was the best so far in the show. Nicole Matthews, I've praised her in the past. She starts out as kind of this heel along with Portia Perez, and they're kind of, one of their big shtick is not wrestling. But unlike Lacey and Rain, who really stretched it out and made a name for themselves by not wrestling, Portia Perez, very talented cheater, and Nicole Matthews, I would say more so, and perhaps because she had fewer injuries by this time, really has come into her own. She has the, expressive face, the annoying voice that causes the fans to hate her, the sarcastic wit, good moves. She's a believable fighter. Now, certainly her championship run has been strewn with cheating and shortcutting and cowardice, but she still is a plausible, a believable champion. And I thought this match was very good. Crazy Mary Dobson, a talented young wrestler, has gotten a lot of traction in a very short period of time in Shimmer. I've seen her a little bit in other promotions, but she certainly has quite a bit of talent. I hear she's done hardcore matches, and those are kind of downplayed as not requiring a lot of talent, to take weapon shots and things like that, and bleed and get sympathy that way, but having to actually act. And I think Crazy Mary does a great job. She was much less goofy and kind of slapstick in this match. She was much more serious. And I like the serious side of her. Of course, I like the silly kind of goofiness as well, but very good match between the two of them. So if you were watching this show, you might even want to skip just to this match and really be amazed by the talent. So this show took some time to get going, but I thought this was quite good. So both women did a great job, I would say. And yes, very evenly matched. I didn't get the sense that, Crazy Mary was an underdog throughout this. And the ending just kind of came out of nowhere, which at times can seem quite realistic, because anything can happen. More on the look of Crazy Mary Dobson, I might say, wondered a little bit if, the kind of the marker on the face, makeup, was maybe a tribute to Courtney Rush, that makeup that she had before she left to go to TNA, where she is Rosemary in the Decay faction, which I want to say more about TNA at some point. I really feel like there have been some good standout performances in the Knockouts division, even though it's hit quite a dry spell. But that's a topic for another video at a later time. Anyway, moving on to round 2. Fight! So, this is, of course, the tournament style. So you go on to these second matches, and, the wrestlers didn't have quite as much time to prepare for that second round, so I'm sure they were tired, and they probably, were pacing themselves. They didn't have a wild night of, partying in between, as you get on these regular Shimmer shows. So, round 2 begins with a bang, with Candice Lorae against Cheerleader Melissa. And of course, I've expressed my admiration for both of these wrestlers in the past. I feel like Melissa at times, has gotten a little stale with her routine, but, she has solid moves, performances. Every time I see her in other promotions, I'm always interested to see, how well she does and how she's received, because she is quite a veteran by this point. Candice LeRae also, even though I've not followed her career as closely, she looks just kind of like a little girl who can't do much, but she really has proven herself time and again as very talented. I'm sorry that it took her so long to get into Shimmer. Really appreciate her. So the two of them had, as you'd expect, a wonderful match. And spoilers, Candice LeRae beats Cheerleader Melissa, and Melissa just couldn't believe it. So really, it's quite wonderful, I would say. Nothing, I would expect nothing less from either of these female performers. Did a great job overall. Now, I would mention here at this point that in the commentary, which I don't say much about because a lot of it is fluff, some of it's just kind of, the usual kind of wrestler jokes you'd expect back and forth, explaining what's going on. But Veda Scott takes over the color commentary at this point, and I think she did a great job. She has quite a gift of gab, as they say. I don't appreciate Veda Scott as much as a wrestler. She certainly has done a lot as a valet, and she has improved. But her microphone skills, quite good. She really comes across as, she can come across as awkward, as full of herself, as egotistical, as nasty, all these traits, that the heel wrestler, needs to get over. I would compliment her on those skills. Certainly, she seems very comfortable in that role. So she took over for Amber Gardner, and there was a moment, I should say, around this time that Candice LeRae, she hugged this little girl in the crowd, a different one, and was yelled at by, Jessica Havoc. there was she jumped Melissa with a dive at the beginning of that match. That was just something I noticed. I wrote it down. I said, way to begin things. Of course, now, usually that's kind of a heel move to jump the person at the bell, attack them before they have a chance. But Candice really goes for it. Her unassuming appearance, totally is made up for by her incredible, skills and tenacity, versatility. So she certainly showed up and showed out in Shimmer. So she continues to impress. Now Melissa shows as well how powerful she is, and you see it. When she and Mischief went head to head at the early days of Shimmer, it seemed that they were both evenly matched. But you look at them, compared to some of these smaller women, and it's like, wow, Melissa, even though she's lost a lot of weight and become very thin, she still is very tall and very powerful looking in comparison to someone small like Candice. But Candice did not seem like an underdog. Again, they seemed evenly matched. Melissa just with that slight edge. Now, there was a moment when cheerleader Melissa gave the finger to the crowd for quite a while. Now, I remember back when in the previous set of reviews that I did that, I believe it was volume 70, that Madison Eagles did kind of her impression of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and she did, the stunner to a bunch of people, and she did this, which, I guess in the UK is very obscene, so I apologize to my UK viewers for the obscene gesture just then, but, in the American, domain, just the middle finger is considered, the obscene gesture. But anyway, Madison, refrained from that, but the Melissa, response, of course, was much more PG-13 to the crowd. So much for the family show. And now I'm wondering if they keep the family show moniker just so that the heels can get over more, so people like Melissa and Sweet Soraya, can break the rules like this. But anyway, just a question there. Now the Kimber Bombs, Kimber Lee and Cherry Bomb come out, and they do the goofy entrance as usual. Many people got, I noticed on the show, many people who got streamers got the single cray paper, the thicker American-style streamers thrown. They're almost like these rolls of toilet paper. They're kind of crinkly. And of course, Dave Prazak had made a big deal in past shows, to the fans who would bring these streamers, saying, only bring the high-quality ones from Japan. They're really thin, but sturdy, paper, expensive streamers for the Joshi performers. But then they started throwing them for other people. At this show, they were throwing cray paper, and it would just get like one. Person would just get one. That's okay. I thought it looked fine on camera, honestly. But actually, you'll notice in the early Shimmer volumes, they did have cray paper for the Joshi wrestlers. Certainly much easier to obtain, much cheaper. I suppose it might be harder to clean up, but I'm not sure why, because there would be less of it. But whatever. So going back to the early volumes, you did have those cray paper streamers, and Ring of Honor, another promotion that adopts that. Of course, all of this is imitating, these Japanese matches where they throw the streamers into the air. It's kind of a cool effect to see, the paper cascading down. And some of the wrestlers, they play with it and do little jokes with the streamers. It seems like kind of a waste to throw away all that paper, but it looks good on camera, so they do it. So Cherry Bomb was ejected from the arena. She was kicked out, and of course, that usually doesn't happen. Usually these, valets and people get to hang out. So it was, the fans, I think, appreciated that. So I was also thinking, just kind of random thought here, I made a little note that, the weights of wrestlers are probably nonsense. And the male wrestling, usually exaggerated. They're always taller and heavier than they appear, and the weights fluctuate quite a bit. Although in real life, wrestlers do, in amateur wrestling, wrestlers do diet and kind of take these extreme, diets, and their weight, goes up and down. But still, and of course the female wrestlers, it seems like they're always lighter than they appear. You get sometimes wrestlers where they look to be about the same size, but one of them is like 50 pounds heavier. Really? I guess it's possible, but just kind of seems meaningless sometimes. And of course, in the next show it can be totally different, and they look the same. There were fewer wrestlers on the show and less time to rest, as I mentioned, but everybody still looked and wrestled, well overall. I'm not sure about some of the outfits, but it's not as bad as some of the shows I've seen with kind of the boring or just weird choices for clothing and look and everything. Of course, you get the Kool-Aid hair throughout. Thought the commentary team did a fair job. These live iPPVs, they kind of have to waste time, and they're not quite sure what's going to happen sometimes, so it's a little more seat of the pants. I kind of like that. Unpredictability. Before they've had a chance to really edit the show down and get all the best camera angles, and they know exactly what's going to happen, and, the commentary is all predetermined, just like everything else. Even more so than it would be in a live show, of course, because it's filmed later. It was kind of funny, though, because Veda Scott admitted on the commentary that she's a cheater, and that's one of the things you never see or hear the heels do. I've watched most of the matches and most of the commentaries from the beginning, and the heel wrestlers always say, well, I'm not really breaking the rules, oh, I didn't know that was cheating, criticize Portia Perez or whomever, but here Veda Scott's just kind of like, yep, I cheat, I'm a cheater. And so you get to this cheetah versus cheetah match with Veda Scott, and Veda Scott says something like, "Is this Dave Prazak in real life?" And because it seems like Dave was admitting that cheating to win the belt was understandable. So it's quite strange. So is Dave Prazak turning heel as well? Because usually on the commentary, he's the good guy. He's the one that attacks the heels. He's the one that praises the faces, and he chastises the injustices that happen. But here it's like, oh, apparently not always down the middle. So it'll be interesting to see if that goes anywhere. If that's just a flub that they just kind of covered for. So. Next match, finally, Nicole Savoy against Kimberly, and I have great respect, of course, for Nicole Savoy, and she's really gotten a push since she appeared in Shimmer, and really has just impressed everyone, including myself. She's very young, but she's just has a lot of versatility, and Kimberly, great respect for her, certainly in the way she gets the fans to hate her. With her, just her antics and everything else. I think she's much more interesting than Cherry Bomb, as far as a character, a wrestler. Now, Nicole came out and kind of reminded me of Michael Jackson. She has the, the baseball cap, the jacket. Now, the baseball cap, again, not just her ethnicity, but reminds me of Mercedes Martinez. And I mean, she had the International Gangsters, hat, back when it was the three of them. It was Kelly Skater, Tomoka Nakagawa, and Mercedes Martinez. But anyway, she has her kind of her attitude and her moves. But she comes out and just really her. I've got to say it. Her hair just went wild. It was just all over the place during the match, and it was just a striking image of just this wild woman. This small. Slightly built, but just wild hair, just going crazy with her, violent moves and her just wild attacks, and just her determination. Quite a spectacle, I must say. So I think they both did a great job. Not to sound redundant, but this was a very good match. So I enjoy the live nature of these events, even if it is a pre-recorded version that I'm watching this video on demand. And finally, we have another match rolling around. Nicole Matthews against Heidi Lovelace. And now Heidi has a tendency to cry when she wins. She gets all emotional. And I was like, okay, is she gonna win, or is Nicole gonna take her down? This match was excellent. There was lots of drama. The crowd really got into it. The crowd can sometimes be dead for these matches, but by now they were very into it. I would say good match, a lot better. Then there was this joke promo that was online on YouTube where Nicole Matthews was kind of like sitting around in the ring, and there was all these guys, and you're like, okay, Nicole, we need to train, you need to, run the ropes and, do these moves, and she was just kind of like flopping around. She had a bottle of wine, and she was drinking, and she's like, I don't need to, she's all flabby and just out of it, and it was just saying that, like, she's not taking things seriously, but here she was a serious threat. She was very talented, you could tell. She's a good wrestler, and so is Heidi, but Nicole is, top of her game. Someone to worry about, not just a kind of a coward who could get defeated easily at any second unless she cheated. No, that's just how it is. Now, Heidi Lovelace seems to have ditched her punk rock ragdoll, with the head banging and the tongue out gimmick. She's a little more serious, and her outfit kind of reminds me of, one of these. She kind of reminds me of some of these Joshi wrestlers. Now, you would always get, these variations in characters, of course, and gimmicks in Japan. You'd always have the pretty girls with kind of the figure skater, kind of swimsuit, sequiny outfits and the long flowing hair. And, they tended to be faces, but then you often got these heel wrestlers, with the short cropped hair and the makeup, with a almost like Road Warrior type of, or Ultimate Warrior type makeup, war paint. But the short-haired wrestlers, the kind of the butch look, kind of more of a boyish tomboy kind of look. They weren't always bad. Some of them were faces, but anyway, Heidi, of course, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of that. She has kind of this kind of almost like a biker type outfit and short hair. She certainly is a good wrestler, and I respect her quite a bit. So she's gone from just, it's that young woman who kind of reminds me of Serena Deeb to Serena, very talented as well, in her prime, of course. But Heidi is coming to her own, and I enjoy her matches, and I think the two of them together was a great combination. So there was a fan that was mocking Nicole, and she crawled out of the arena at the end, and Heidi triumphed. She beat Nicole Matthews, and I think it was well earned. Now, after this match, there was Lenny Leonard, and again, this one of these kind of perennial guys. Apparently, he's one of the commentary or announce team for Shine Wrestling, the sister promotion that does the iPPVs for Shimmer. Well, they do exclusively iPPVs. So I'm not really familiar with this guy, but I had heard of him. He comes out and he introduces this woman who she's from MMA. Now, I don't watch MMA. Mixed martial arts, UFC, Bellator, whatever you want to call it. Of course, I've seen the advertisements. TNA, had a big advertising thing with them, but, I don't really follow it. I'm much more of the fan of the fantasy fighting, not the real fighting. I don't want to see people get hurt for real. It's kind of strange. We like our violence, but not the real violence. But anyway, certainly both professional wrestling and MMA have their own challenges. People can get injured if the stunts go awry in wrestling, even if it is, scripted, choreographed, and fake. So he brings out this woman, and I'd never heard of her, honestly. Let's see if I get her name correctly. It's Shayna Baszler. Never heard of her. Had to look her up. But anyway, she gave this okay promo. I didn't really expect much, honestly. Perhaps they've been training her, but she's 35 years old. She started professional wrestling. Goes by the name Queen of Spades. She's going to be on the next volume of Shimmer at the end of this month, I believe. I probably won't be able to see the show, but nevertheless, I guess she's making her debut. Now, I kind of have some misgivings here because, of course, everybody remembers in WWF, the Attitude Era, Ken Shamrock, was such a big star, and, he brought some quasi, pseudo MMA style fighting to professional wrestling on television. They were trying to compete, with MMA was the big hot new thing at that time. Having these kind of octagon-style rings, and, a lot of submission holds and tapping out, rather than just saying, you quit or you submit, say you tap out, just like they do in UFC, Ultimate Fighting. And the little small gloves they wear and the barefoot, all that kind of style. They're certainly trying to appeal to that audience, because professional wrestling is kind of its own thing. It really doesn't look like any other sport. It doesn't look like boxing. It doesn't look like, amateur wrestling. But they have tried to copy MMA at times. And TNA especially. I used to watch them quite frequently, and they would have these MMA stars they would bring on. I think it was because they were on the same channel as Bellator MMA, and they would always cross-promote, but it was almost always wrestling promoting MMA, and they bring on these MMA fighters as like valets, or they have a really quick match, and it was really kind of these boring kind of celebrity-style matches where, the person would come in and they'd do a couple clotheslines and pin the person. That was it. It's just really a waste. And now, certainly, of course, they're used to a whole nother sport style. They're doing real fighting, and now they have to learn how to do fake fighting, how to make it look like the moves hurt and are damaging and trying to kill your opponent, but in reality, you're trying to protect them and just make it look good on television. So, I don't expect much from these MMA fighters. I mean, certainly they're in good physical condition. And you can have people like Kurt Angle, who is an Olympic wrestler, who became a professional wrestler, quite talented. But nevertheless, I don't automatically assume, oh, well, they were a fighter on TV, they're just going to be a great fighter in wrestling. Make them prove themselves. Let them prove themselves and demonstrate that they can be entertaining, that they can bring in the fans, and not just be, someone who's muscle-bound or riding on their name from some other sport. Certainly if someone came in and they were a football player, I wouldn't just automatically love them. Even if they were a great football player, they have to be a great wrestler. So we'll see if this woman, what she does. Now, she said something in her promo about how, well, she's going to bring, shoot or catch wrestling into Shimmer. Now, of course, it's a kayfabe, thing. She's pretending that she's really going to be fighting these women MMA style. But we'll see how it turns out. If it's just going to be a one-off or she become a part of the roster. Maybe it's safer for her, maybe not, as far as her old profession. Now we get to the finals. Finally, after this long show. Actually, I didn't watch it all straight through. I took breaks, but anyway, the finals. We have Candice LeRae versus Heidi Lovelace versus Nicole Savoy. A three-way fight. Now, very often these three-way fights, I was watching this special some time ago, this documentary, where ECW was claiming to have invented the three-way dance, the triple threat match, the wrestling match with three contestants. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but nevertheless, they claimed that they invented it in the 90s. But anyway, you have the three of them, and very often in these matches, it'll start out with three, but one person will get thrown out of the ring, and then it's really just a regular match, and then all of a sudden one person will jump in, and the other person will jump out. It's almost like a tag match, an unofficial tag match, but I guess it's harder to do than a 2-on-2. But anyway, I like that when they can do these matches and really incorporate all three. So it's a three-way elimination match. Nicole, again, it gives the middle finger. Well, Melissa did first, but so again, not family friendly. Now, this was a funny moment. She was forced to shake hands of Heidi because Candice LeRae grabbed her and forced her to shake her hand because, she refused. She did the old heel thing. I won't shake your hand. The handshaking, I mean, that was a big thing in Ring of Honor. I guess in Japanese wrestling it happens too. It's like, oh, do you respect me? Ha, just kidding. It's usually an opportunity to get a cheap shot by one or the other. Let's see. I just had a little bit of just kind of a reminiscing. I would say this was an excellent match. High energy hitting. All the three of these women, I think earned their spot. I didn't feel like this was, artificially, oh, we're just going to promote the heck out of this one person. I kind of wondered that. I thought, well, are they going to promote Candice LeRae just because, of a past history? Are they going to promote, Heidi Lovelace just because of whatever? But actually, I thought this was a good match, and the right person won. It was Nicole Savoy. And I think at the end she was trying to climb the turnbuckle to celebrate. She kind of stumbled a little bit. And that may have been an accident, but I think it was played off well. It was just like, I'm so exhausted. I've given every ounce of my strength to earn this. And, she is a heel. But she's the type of heel that is arrogant because she's so good. She's not just, a cheater. She's not, someone who is a coward or a bully. She's so good that she knows it, and she expresses it, and because of that, she earns the hatred of some fans. Kind of a little bit like, he has recently passed away, the great one, Muhammad Ali, the boxer. His whole shtick was, he used his ego. I'm the greatest. He really caught people off guard and really intimidated his opponents, his trash talking. Well, I think Nicole Savoy has that in spades. She does a great job taking after, greats like the late Mr. Ali. Heidi, of course, more of the every woman, baby face. And then Candice Lorae, that mischievous character. And they call her move the Plex. They don't want to say what it was referring to because, they're fighting other women and because it's a family-friendly, supposedly, show. Kind of reminds me of going through the toy aisle at a toy store. You see all the wrestling action figures and things, and they just call it the Cell. They don't want to call it Hell in a Cell. It's too scary, too controversial. So it's funny how, the show, they sometimes tone things down, and other things, they just let it go. But I guess it's a little more shocking. When you do see blood, when you do see profanity or middle fingers in Shimmer, it's a big shock, because they usually don't do that sort of thing. Usually keep it very clean, very family-friendly. And so I guess it slips out sometimes. But especially in a live show, that's what you get. So I greatly enjoyed, this final match. I was worried when I was watching that, this is just going to be an average show. It's going to be, maybe just 1 or 2 good matches. But, really, you had at least 3 very exciting, great matches. And, you did see a progression throughout. So I would recommend this show. I would say Shimmer Volume 80, worth watching. Again, to compare it to previous iPPVs, I would say Volume 62 felt like it had more variety. Certainly it was a little rougher just because they were introducing so many wrestlers. And, that digital virtual disc was a great improvement over the live recorded show, which was kind of dark. It was kind of hard to hear. 53, just in a class by itself, still the best of the iPPVs that Shimmer has done. Just unsurpassed in terms of scope, grandeur, overall matches. Even if the main event was not as good as it could have been, perhaps, it was still very unique, a wonderful put-together show. So 53 is still the gold standard, but it's so different from everything else in Shimmer. And, 62, I said what it was. I would say 71, which I'm in the process of, getting that review out. That one, it's hard to say which one was better, this or that. I think they were pretty close in terms of quality, but I'll have more to say about that later. I would say this was not the worst iPPV they've done, but it's not the best either. There were some standout matches, but they weren't all great. I know that the wrestlers we're talking about are capable of better, and have had better matches. And there were so many wrestlers that I liked who are just not there. They're just not at the show. And with these smaller, iPPV shows, it's quicker paced most of the time, with these tournament styles, kind of the darker arena, different look. Kind of reminded me of Chikara, Joshi Mania. They had this really dark arena, and you couldn't quite tell how big the crowd was. I would say, it's a good show, worth watching. I don't know about the Kool-Aid hair, but we'll see if that grows on me, and I become, more glowy and shimmery as time goes on. Well, anyway, thanks for watching. Certainly, another enjoyable Shimmer show, and I've said it before, the worst of Shimmer is still not that bad, and still pretty good compared to the women's wrestling you see on TV. But I have seen some good women's wrestling on TV lately. I've mentioned NXT and a little bit of it, Lucha Underground, and even TNA is kind of picking up their game lately. So hopefully women's wrestling will continue on and continue to get better, even as this generation of Shimmer wrestlers, that I first grew to love, retiring, moving on. Many Shimmer wrestlers have gone to TNA, actually. So I know that there was a time when they just kind of universally praised TNA. I had quite a relationship. And WWE was kind of poo-pooed, bad-mouthed, whatever. Of course, as soon as Sweet Soraya's daughter, Brittany Knight Page, went there, it was kind of like all of a sudden it's good. And, we have, Sarah Mato, and we have Becky Lynch, who is Rebecca Knox, going there. So anyway, more topics for other videos, but thanks for watching. So Shimmer Volume 80, a good show, well worth watching. So when it comes to digital versatile disc, of course, I'll be picking up a copy to watch it again, maybe give it a second look, see those different camera angles, maybe different commentary. No major injuries this time, thankfully, it appeared. Next Shimmer shows are rolling on. I think the digital versatile discs are about a year behind, but supposedly within the next month we should be getting another 4 volumes out. So I'll certainly be reviewing those as soon as I can and put them out on the channel. So thanks.